40 past the hour. It's been nearly 2 weeks since the Trump administration deported hundreds of alleged gang members to El Salvador, where they were taken to a maximum security prison. This is some of the videos that came out. The president of El Salvador put those up. But Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem visited that prison Wednesday. When the group first arrived, a freelance American photographer was there to document it. He captured the moments as 261 men were chained and rushed from the plane to the prison. Philip Holsinger joins us now from San Salvador. Philip, I thank you very much for being with us. You write, among other things, about how these men that arrived from the deportation plane completely changed once they arrived in that prison. And I'm going to read from some of what you wrote. You wrote, quote, "It was like looking at men who passed through a time machine. In 2 hours, they aged 10 years. Philip, what did you mean by that?
You know, I've documented tragedy, unfortunately, and you know, war around the world for many, many years. And so I've seen a lot of faces in duress. And I've seen past Life magazine photo essays, one from the Vietnam War, where the events of someday, one in particular by Larry Burroughs, where these faces of these young guys changed in a day. But I'd never seen it myself. And the guys, when they came off the plane, were unlike most of them that I've observed in my time here documenting the gang war. And they were scared, but they were defiant. But within 2 hours of the process of arriving into this, you know, crowd of military and police and darkness and being taken to a place where they didn't even know. And then, you know, the harshness of bringing them into the prison totally transformed them. I mean, some of their faces looked like they had aged a decade.
Yeah, you've been living in El Salvador. You're documenting what you were just talking about, the change also in that country under President Nayib Bukele. Tell us a little bit about what that prison and how unique that prison is.
Yeah, Sacat is a unique place, one just by design. I actually was able to spend time with one of the architects yesterday, one of the designers of the place happened to be there yesterday. And you know, as a prison goes, its purpose is just for gang terrorists. And, you know, as you have reported here clearly, that MS-13, I mean, and Tren de Agua, these guys are violent. I mean, they are extremely dangerous. This prison is built just for them. And its whole philosophy is total austerity. There are no rights inside this prison. And I don't say that as a condemnation, it's just a fact. In some ways, it was definitely the cleanest prison I've ever been in. It may be the safest prison that I've ever been in the world because nothing happens inside there, because it's a total lockdown. But there's also zero tolerance for any kind of misbehavior in this prison. And everybody that's brought into it they're educated in that very quickly, that they can't even speak when they're not spoken to.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, you know, I lived in El Salvador 84 to 86. I've seen that country from Chalatenango to La Union. But I'm
you
just
were in Chalatenango.
Yes, I've been everywhere in that extraordinarily beautiful country. I'm just wondering how that country has changed. And I'm just wondering, Philip, so these people that are there, and maybe we could separate the Salvadorans that have been sent there by the government of El Salvador and then these folks that have come in. Do any of them ever get a day in court or a chance to plead their case?
So this I'm still working on. I mean, I'm working on a book on the whole security apparatus. And the answer to that question is how justice works. As you know, El Salvador declared a state of emergency, which has been, you know, kept open since 2022 in March, and that suspends typical judicial rights. But they do one thing that in Sacat is everybody except for the Venezuelans, they came directly from the U.S. Everybody else in Sacat is taken to another prison first, and then they go through the court system. But it's they collected 76,000 files in El Salvador before they started the arrests in March of 2022. So they actually had these deep files, but they take them through mass group hearings. So that is their judicial process in being put in there. But it's not a typical. There's no jury selection. It's one judge with hundreds of guys that are sent in there. But as for your question about the state of the country, it's one of the. If you were here, this country has been at war and in terror for generations. And if you were in Chalatenango, you were in the middle of a guerrilla war, and that's incredible because that was some heavy hitting stuff.
They were very difficult.
But the country, as you know, was so murderous, and it's the strange thing about El Salvador is completely peaceful, and it's a place where I would bring my daughter here and drop her off in the street at any hour of the day. But it's not like a police state. There's a strange kindness and peace here that's absolutely beautiful, and it doesn't correlate with all that they've suffered here.
Yeah. El Pulgar de Centroamérica, I've got to tell you, go to Usulután and get some pupusas de chicharrón, my friend. There's nowhere better than that. Philip Hulsinger, I thank you very much for being with us. I really appreciate your time.